Our next lesson is solving multi-step inequalities. Our objective? Well, what do you know? It's to solve multi-step inequalities. So what multi-step means is basically there's more than just one step to solve for the variable. So if I'm solving for this problem right here, I have to work backwards from PEMDAS. So I have to first get rid of the sign. So opposite of is a positive, is a negative. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And then I have 4t is equal to 13. Just joking, 12. And then here's multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying would be dividing. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. And I'm multiplying by 4, so I have to divide by 4. So now I have t is equal to 12. So it's the same concept as that when I'm dealing with inequalities, except once I get finished the problem, I would have t is greater than 12. Since I did not multiply by a positive negative, the sign stays. And then I would just have to graph this equation. So you always draw your number line first with the line going on forever. And the point I'm dealing with is 12. It's going to be an open circle because there's no line underneath my sign. And it says t is greater than 12, so I want to point it to the right. To check my answer, I'm going to plug in 20. Is 20 greater than 12? It sure is, so that graph is correct. Right now I want you to pause the video and solve these multi-step equation or inequalities. Make sure to be careful for A and B because they're going to be dividing by a negative number. And then check your work with mine. So your three answers here should be the first one, A is greater than or equal to -4. As you can see, I had to flip my sign here because I divided by a -6. And it should be a closed circle pointing to the right. For B, I have 3 is greater than n. Again, I flipped the sign because I divided by a -3. Open circle pointing to the left. The last one, I don't have to flip my sign, so it says at 25 is greater than x, so it'd be 25 open circle pointing to the left. Oh my gosh, here's a word problem. Okay, you want to make a rectangular banner. So I'm going to just draw a picture because sometimes pictures can help visually see what you're doing. It's 18 feet long. You want to figure out what are the possible widths that it could be. You have no more than 48 feet. So I'm going to set up an inequality. So a banner with a trim would be my perimeter. So it'd be 18 plus 18 plus x plus x. This equation right here cannot be any more than 48. So this has to be less than or equal to 48. Because it cannot be greater because I only have 48 feet of trim. So now I'm going to solve for x. So 18 plus 18 is going to give me 36 plus 2x is less than 48. So the first step I do is subtract 36. And then I'm going to have 2x is less than or equal to 12 and divide by 2. X can be less than or equal to 6. In order to make this banner, x has to be less than or equal to 6. So here's another multi-step equation or inequality, but first I want to get all of my variables to one side of the equation. So I'm going to move over my 3n. So I'm going to subtract 3n because that's a positive 3n. And so I have to do the opposite since I'm going to the opposite side. So I have 3n minus 1 is greater than 8. So now when I'm looking at this problem, I have to get rid of this minus 1 because I have to work backwards from PEMDAS, getting rid of adding and subtracting first. The opposite of subtracting would be adding, and I want to get rid of the 1, so I have to add 1 to both sides. So I have 3n is greater than 9. And since this says 3 times n, the opposite of timesing would be dividing, and since I want to get rid of this 3, I have to divide both sides by 3. So I have n is greater than 3. So if I'm going to graph this, my point is at 3. It's going to be an open circle because there's no line, and it's going to be pointing to the right because n is getting greater than 3. If I want to test that, I'm going to plug 10 in. Is 10 greater than 3? It sure is. So that's a star effort. So again, a multi-step equation, but There's 2 steps now I have to do before I can do the 2 steps. My first thing I want to do is simplify. So in this equation, when I simplify, I have to distribute this 2 into my equation. So I have 10 minus 8a is greater than or equal to 10 minus 8a. Well, this looks peculiar. Well, my next step is always to move my variables to one side of the equation. So I'm going to move over my 8. So I'm going to add 8 on this side, 8a plus 8a on this side. And then I'm going to be left with negative 8 plus 8a is going to give me 0, so I'm not going to write anything out, is greater than or equal to 10, and negative 8 plus 8a is going to give me 0. So now when I look at this problem, is 10 greater than or equal to 10? That is a true statement. Remember, whenever you do not have any more variables left, but you come up with a true statement, it's going to be all real numbers, or else you can also write infinity solutions. So here's another multi-step problem. The first thing I want to do is combine like terms, or simplify on the right-hand side. If I look here, I have an m and an m. So on the right, or on the left-hand side, I still have 6m minus 5 is greater than 7n minus m is going to be 6m plus 7. And then I want to move all variables to one side of the equation, so I'm going to subtract 6m, and then I have negative 5 is greater than 7. Well, if I read this out again, negative 5 greater than 7, that is not true. That's a false statement, so it would be no solution. Wah, wah, wah. Make sure you fill out the Google form and submit your answers. Have a wonderful evening. See you later.